Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 97 Republic YouTube channel, where I react to UFC news, live events, basically just anything related to the UFC. So I kindly ask that if you enjoy the video, a friendly reminder to click the like button. If you want to become a part of this channel, feel free to click the subscribe button. And if you don't want to miss out on anything, you want to stay up to date, feel free to click the notification bell. All of this really contributes to the growth of this channel. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy this one. Reacting to UFC Fight Night, Garry versus Carlos Prates, where I said you need to lock in. Because I said I was gonna go 6 for 6. Now I didn't teach you how to fish. I brought you fish. And you just had to eat fish. Now this has nothing to do with fish. Was I confident in my picks? Absolutely not. Even though I analyzed it, didn't really think I was gonna go 6 for 6. But I said it with so much conviction that, to quote Israel Adesanya, I manifested this. Yeah, I manifested it. And it doesn't matter if you counter manifest it, I will manifest, the living hell out of your manifestation. I am the manifester. And like a gypsy with a crystal ball, I saw the future. I was reading the palm of the UFC, and I saw the outcome. Now, I am not allowed to give financial advice. And you could obviously tell why. But all I'm saying is fish. That's what I'm saying. Unofficially saying what I'm saying. I know ball. But with regards to the event itself, started off like a house on fire. Edwards versus Chandler. And a great performance by Jocelyn Edwards, getting the first round knockout over Chelsea Chandler. Then, second fight, we saw Timothy Kuamba versus Roberto Romero. And I thought that Roberto stood a good chance at winning this fight. But then that finishing sequence by Timothy Kuamba, if you didn't see it, go check it out. It was Neo from the Matrix like, where he caught him with a punch, starched him, rocked his boat, and then basically the following shots, it was methodical as you could possibly ask for. So he starched him, then caught him with a step-in elbow, also caught him with a head kick, and as Roberto Romero threw and kind of overthrew one of his punches, he was leaning forward. Timothy Kuamba caught him with the jumping knee, with the step-in jumping knee, right? And the fight was over. Prematurely ended. The referee could have given it more time, but I think that was only going south for Roberto Romero. And then following fight, we saw Poliana Viana versus Amarim. Amarim getting her her submission victory in the second round. A quick question: who was in Poliana Viana's camp? Because Marab was in her corner. Now, if she actually trained with Marab, a logical person would assume that they worked on wrestling, because Marab is, pound for pound, probably one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. So Poliana basically getting taken down at will was odd. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you would expect that her wrestling defense would have been better heading into this fight. But anyway, good victory for Amarim. She looked really good. And then, following fight, broke my heart. We saw Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Simon. And obviously, as a South African, I am a big fan of Cameron Simon. And it's tough. It's tough. Got knocked out in the first round. Wellmaker landing a picture perfect hook, which sent Cameron packing. And it's tough. Cameron started off 3-0 inside the UFC. He's 0-3 in his last 3 fights. But he's 24 years old. So a lot for Cameron Simon. There's a lot left with regards to his UFC career, I think, personally. I think he's really good. I just think, maybe lacks a little bit of confidence within the octagon right now. It was a long layoff for him. I think it was about a year layoff for Cameron. So it sucked. But probably the only negative on this card. But with saying that, all the credit to Malcolm Wellmaker, who does the opposite of making you well. Yeah, in fact, yeah. So good performance. But then basically the first four fights they were really good, and then the following four fights they were good. They were all right. I mean, the Mon Blackshear, his fight was really good against Ateng Lee, and yeah. Then after that, we saw who was after that. I think it was Chris Gutierrez and Castaneda. Their fight wasn't bad at all. Um, but it felt like the first four fights just was so good. It was so action packed that it was difficult to, maintain that level of just chaos. And then following that, Elder versus Young, which is ironic. Elder and Young, but was also a good fight. Joe Schilling being in Elder's corner, he is massive. And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, just help me out here. I think it was in one of Joe Rogan's episodes where it was a clip of it was Joe Schilling that knocked out the drunk guy. That I think Joe would be able to. They could have used him as a guillotine for public executions back in the day. If he was alive back in the day, they could have used him. French Revolution, they just call out Joe Schilling, and he is a scary figure with regards to. I mean, Elder's big for lightweight. Evan Elder is really big for lightweight, and him standing next to Joe Schilling, where Joe is basically like almost somewhat crouching. Well, crouching's not the right word, but basically just bending over so he could speak face to face with Evan Elder. Yeah, scary man. Yeah, scary man. But then prelims main event, we saw Matt Schnell versus Flick, and yeah, Matt Schnell with an impressive victory. And with regards to wrestling transitions, I thought that fight was really interesting to watch. I enjoyed it with regards to the wrestling transitions, with regards to Schnell, reversing, getting the reversals, and basically just capitalizing on it. I thought it was a good fight. But then we headed into the main card, and this is where the magic happened. We started off with Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. And I thought Ikram would win this fight. I thought he would win via second round knockout. And he ended up winning via first round knockout just due to the fact that I think Ikram Aliskerov is really good. His loss against Robert Whittaker, you know, everyone outside of the top five within the middleweight division loses to Robert Whittaker. So he just wasn't there yet. He could potentially in the future be there, but at that time he wasn't there yet. And I thought with regards to his fight against Andre Muniz, I thought that Muniz would be able to take Ikram down. I just thought that, Andre has with regards to his striking, he a lot of times he would look lethargic and really throw, I'd say, somewhat slow punches, throws a very lackadaisical head kick, and I thought Ikram would capitalize on that, and then basically Ikram caught him with a check left hook, and it was odd because it was like watching them fight on 980 ping, because Ikram caught him left hook, bang, landed flush. It was like a second, and then Muniz his legs just basically started buckling. So like a delayed reaction, fighting on 900 ping, and then Muniz went down. Ikram pounced on him and basically just ended the fight. A really good win for Ikram Aliskerov. I really think he is that good. The only problem is, and this is not his fault, but he's yet to see the third round within the UFC, because in his victories he's been really dominant, and obviously with that fight against Robert Whittaker it finished early, but we've seen with the main event of this fight with Carlos Prates versus Ian Garry, which I will get to later on, but the lack of experience in the latter rounds of a fight could really be telling, and it's difficult because he's so dominant that he wins his fights in either the first or the second round, but he won't be able to do that, forever. So whenever he is unable to finish his opponent, and the fight goes into the third round, maybe he main events and goes into the fourth, fifth, having that fight IQ or lack thereof, I think could be a problem. It's always a problem with regards to these knockout artists who basically just they go in there, knock their opponent out, that it's done early, go to the showers, have a great night. Whenever they fight someone that's on their level, someone that they are unable to knock out, it's a problem. But then anyway, we went into the second fight, welterweight division, Randy Brown, Nicholas Dolby. I predicted Brown to win the fight. I thought via unanimous decision, just due to the fact that Nicholas Dolby has never been knocked out, and Randy Brown said, "Hold my beer, cause I'm gonna send him." Because in the first round, Randy Brown looked really good. Looked, yeah, he is underrated. Now I don't know how he's rated within the states, but he is really good. And every time he fights, he puts up a good performance. And with regards to his previous fights, he looked really good. As I previously mentioned, the fight against Brian Battle, I thought Randy Brown ended up winning that fight. He didn't officially, but he's a really good, sophisticated striker who has crisp boxing, has good head movement, and most of the times he's not really in danger. Now, obviously, against Dolby, he got clipped in the first round. Even though up to that point, it felt like, according to me, he was winning the round. Dolby clipped him. He went on the ground, but then Randy Brown recovered. Second round came, and Randy Brown looked good. And then all of a sudden, they find one another inside of the pocket. Just without an invitation, without a briefing prior to that circumstance, they just start throwing to see who will end first. Who will end up dying first. And Dolby was the one. Because Randy Brown caught him with a picture perfect hook that sent Nicholas Dolby to sniff the canvas. And first time Dolby was ever knocked out. So a really good performance by Randy Brown. I think honestly, I feel like he's a top 8, top 9 welterweight. Now, obviously, with regards to how good he really is, once he faces, Joaquin Buckley, or once he faces someone like Neil Magny or Jeff Neal, we could actually see how good Randy Brown actually is. But I genuinely feel like he's good. He's really good. And if you missed the first round, Randy Brown throws a right hook. Yeah, it was right. And he missed everything except Nicholas Dolby's nose. And caught him with as flush on the nose from the side as you could possibly get. Because Nicholas Dolby's nose ended up sniffing his ear, because his nose, it was probably here, probably like 2.5 centimeters or an inch off where it should be. And then, round ended, and the cutman basically just popped it, and it's straight. It looked horrible. Looked horrible. Anyway, third fight, Michal Pereira, Abbas Magomedov. The most underwhelming fight of the entire card. Michal Pereira, a guy renowned for doing wild stuff within the octagon, doing backflips, rolling thunders, jumping off the fence. In his last few fights, he looked like, I don't want to say that he matured, but it looked like he adapted with regards to his fighting style, because he knew that this way of fighting isn't sustainable, especially if he has UFC gold aspirations, right? So he somewhat evolved. Now, evolve isn't even the right term, but developed his fighting game to something different. Where in this fight, we saw Michal Pereira in the first 2 rounds basically do nothing. Sacrifice the first 2 rounds. And then in the third round, he started pressing, started looking more, eager to try and win the fight. But surely that's not the game plan. I tend to believe that I think Michal Pereira went into this fight either sick or injured, because there's no way that they would have thought logically that this would be the way to beat Abbas Magomedov. Even though he tires in the third round, you can't sacrifice 2 rounds and then basically put all of your chips on you getting the knockout, because some guys within the UFC will be too smart to get knocked out. They tend to do damage control basically just be safe, especially if they're up 2 rounds. They don't need to engage. They could basically just circle and win the fight. So it was really odd. The first 2 rounds, it looked like Pereira was a statue. Albus actually caught him, I think in the second round, actually had him hurt. But Albus was so tired that he didn't want to press. Or maybe he was just composed, but thought, okay, I hurt him. I'll just take the round and just stay back. Anyway, a lackluster performance from both. But I picked Albus to win. I thought Albus would use more wrestling, just due to the fact that Miguel Pereira last fight we saw him with Anthony Hernandez, and I thought that Fluffy gave the blueprint on how to dominate Miguel Pereira. But then Albus basically just ended up beating Pereira with almost zero grappling. So an impressive performance for Albus. He definitely needs to work on his gas tank. Because if you want to compete against the top 8 middleweights in the UFC, every single one of them will take you to the distance, and they will look good when they do it. All of them are cardio machines. The only one I'd say isn't is Hamzat. But good luck seeing the third, fourth, and fifth round against Hamzat, because very few people have been able to do it. So yeah, you might have better cardio than Hamzat. Chances are first round. So if Albus is gonna fight anyone within the top 8, and you could literally pick any one of them. He already fought Sean Strickland. He already fought Caio Baralho. Ended up losing to both of them. But you could take anyone else. You could even take Jared Cannonier. Guarantee you that that fight will see the third round, and if it's a main event, definitely see the fourth and fifth round, and then Albus would be in trouble. So an impressive win for Albus Magomedov, a good win for Albus, but definitely needs to work on the gas tank. And I mean, I could understand why he's gassing. The guy he is extremely muscular, a muscular tall figure. But yeah, if he wants to be a top middleweight, definitely we'll have to see him, work on his cardio. Fourth fight, Giga Jikatse David Onama, had David winning by unanimous decision, just due to the fact that I didn't think David was gonna knock out Giga and vice versa. Felt like David had better punches, Giga had better kicks, both of them would stay on the outside. I didn't see David winning in the way that he did, with regards to utilizing and using his wrestling. But I mean, he ended up winning, according to me, the second, third round. Basically took Giga down, maintained top control, and then basically just won via the scorecards. But I saw this coming, in the sense that with regards to Giga's last performances, with regards to the Allen fight, with regards to the Caceres fight, Keita fight, as the fight progressed, he looked more labored. Looked like it was wearing on him more. Didn't look as impressive in rounds 2 and 3 as he did in round 1. And I felt like Giga would end up winning the first round. But then I thought Onama would win 2 and 3. Just due to the fact that I think Onama has better cardio. I think his way of fighting is way more sustainable. I didn't see the wrestling. But I thought he would have outscored Giga on the feet. Now I am wrong there. I think if that fight continued playing out on the feet, Giga wins it. And you could even see, potentially could have seen a Giga knockout, just due to the fact that his timing was better. He liked what he saw with regards to what David gave him. His kicks was really good. His punches was really good. Felt like Onama was the one that was more in trouble when the fight played out on the feet. But it speaks a lot about how good David Onama is. Knowing that it's not going your way on the feet, knowing that you have to do something, you have to adjust within the fight, taking Giga down and winning. That's just, really good fighters have the ability to adapt within a fight where they know something isn't going their way, and they try and move away from it and basically just have the fight play out in a very different manner. And David Onama did it. Great victory. And now he's ranked. Should be ranked. So, impressive victory for David Onama. Then we went on to co-main event, Anthony Smith's last fight within the UFC. I said, if you are, with regards to my prediction video, I said if you are an Anthony Smith fan, look away. Because I didn't see this going great, going good, going even average for Anthony Smith. I thought that this would end in the way that it did. Now, I can't remember. I think I said second round knockout for Zhang Mingyang, and obviously it was the first round. But I mean, it's the end of Anthony's career. It was literally his last fight. His previous performances didn't look good either, and it's been coming. I'm just glad that he's retired. He has a life outside of the UFC, and he is a legend. Like if you only saw this version of Anthony Smith, do yourself a favor, go back to actually young prime Anthony Smith. He was a different animal. Lionheart was justified with the way he fought, and having wins over Rashad Evans, over Alexander Gustafsson, Mauricio Rua, Volkan Oezdemir. Anthony Smith back then was real, but this version just I, there's no way that this fight could have gone anywhere like any differently. It couldn't. And yeah, impressive victory for Zhang Mingyang. He is a massive guy. For respectfully, for a Chinese person, cause he is tall and and boy is thick, massive legs. Used his leg kicks really good in his fight against Anthony Smith, and he has power. I mean, it was on display. He might be a genuine prospect with regards to the light heavyweight division. We'll see, but yeah, just glad it's done. Anthony Smith had a really good UFC career, fought for the belt at light heavyweight. So just yeah, and then I ended up flipping off someone in the crowd. Was awkward, however, it's done. Thank you, Anthony Smith, for your UFC career. It was fun. It was genuinely fun. And then main event, Carlos Prates versus Ian Garry. I had Ian winning via decision due to the fact that Ian Garry, I didn't think that he would be able to knock out Carlos Prates, vice versa. And I thought that Ian would be better with regards to his overall game. With regards to, I don't think his striking is necessarily better. I'd say they're even, but Ian has better wrestling. Ian has better grappling. Ian has way better fight IQ as well. Because once again, I think we take for granted just how much of an influence experience is within the UFC. Like a more experienced fighter, like Ian Garry, who has fought 5 rounds, who has had a lot of decision victories, actually is or actually ended up benefiting him in his fight against Carlos Prates. Because he knows what's sustainable for himself in the way he fights. He knows what he can and can't do with regards to pressure, with regards to volume, with regards to takedowns. He knows. Carlos Prates is yet to see a 3rd round, let alone 5. That's why we saw Prates at the end of the 4th, really coming into his own and really being deadly, being vicious with regards to having the benefit of seeing what Ian Garry ended up showing him with regards to the 5th round. We basically saw Ian hold on for dear life because he was in some dire moments. And this is what the welterweight division needed. I said that we could potentially see a 5-round fight where we see momentum shift. And I think both men would come out of that fight, irrespective of who won, would come out of that fight as genuine contenders. And I feel like that's what we got. I felt like the only reason, well, not the only reason. I do feel like Ian Garry is insane and he's really good. But lack of experience is the reason why we saw that fight play out in the way it did. Where Ian was comfortable for three rounds and like 3/4, where he was out of danger and really connected. Had Carlos Prates in trouble a couple of times. And then in the 4th round, at the end of the 4th, we saw Carlos Prates putting it on Ian Garry. 5th round started, and you knew Garry was basically just going to have to survive this. Because Carlos Prates is gonna go, full steam ahead. And I saw that Ian Garry was more experienced, saw that the fact that he had better fight IQ, and thought that he would win the fight, take what or do whatever is necessary to win that fight. And he did. Whenever Carlos felt like he was gaining momentum, Ian just shot for a takedown. Whether he got it or not, it just kind of disrupted the rhythm that Carlos Prates wanted to find himself in. And that's experience. But Carlos Prates even though with the lack of experience, first time in a fourth and fifth round, he looked good. At the end of that fight, was really putting it on Ian Garry. Could have, I mean, could have is relative, but the fight could have ended had he done it any differently. He had Ian Garry in really really big trouble. So yeah, it was an insane fight. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fight. I think Ian Garry is really good. I've said that he's really good, and you know everything surrounding Ian Garry outside of the UFC. A lot of people can say his wife is a wag. Ian Garry gets the bag. He knows how to win. He knows what it takes to win. It might not be pretty. It is effective. And we basically saw the same with Bilal Muhammad, where he's so accustomed to the latter rounds of fights that whenever he finds himself in that situation, he's so comfortable that he probably go on winning the fight. And that's what Ian Garry is basically doing. Ian Garry took this fight with Carlos Prates with everything to lose. Ian was ranked 7. Prates was ranked 13. So Ian had everything to lose. But he still accepted this fight. Because he knew he had a lot to gain as well. Due to the fact that he fought Shafkat on short notice. Took Shafkat to the distance. Almost submitted Shafkat in the 5th round. Takes the fight with Carlos Prates. Wants to stay active. Ian Garry's good inside the octagon. I enjoy watching him fight. He has everything outside of the octagon. I honestly do not care. I just want to see him fight. And I do think that he is one of the top 3 welterweights in the UFC. Taking Bilal, not taking into account Bilal because he's obviously champion, but I think it's Shafkat, Ian, potentially Sean Brady. And I think Carlos Prates is definitely a top 7 welterweight within the UFC right now. He basically just needs experience. But he was the first fighting nerd to lose, the first male fighting nerd to lose, and I think he can hold his head up high. He was really impressive. Carlos Prates looked really good, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But I really think that if Prates ended up fighting Jeff Neal prior to Ian Garry, it would have helped him a lot. However, if he ended up beating Jeff Neal in the first round, this fight would have gone the exact same way that it did. However, if he fought Jeff Neal and the fight maybe went 3 rounds, won by a decision, it changes the dynamics of this fight. But that's basically my reaction for UFC Fight Night, Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. Let me know in the comment section which fight did you enjoy the most, and which fight do you think warrants being fight of the night. I would really appreciate it, and then I'll catch you in the next one.